Urgent, Tatum makes a strong statement about the Lakers. Stay until the end to find out everything. But before starting the video, leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any important news about the Lakers. From the time Jayson Tatum could dribble a basketball, there was one team that dominated his imagination: the Los Angeles Lakers. As a child growing up in St. Louis, Tatum idolized Kobe Bryant. He studied Kobe's footwork, memorized his interviews, mimicked his jump shot in the driveway. Posters of Bryant in the iconic purple and gold decorated his room. For Jayson, the Lakers weren't just a team, they were a symbol of excellence, a dream he nurtured quietly but passionately. By the time he entered Duke University, Tatum was already a projected lottery pick. Scouts raved about his scoring instincts, polished mid-range game, and high basketball IQ. But privately he had one hope: that the Lakers, who owned the second pick in the 2017 NBA draft, would call his name. In the pre-draft process, Tatum was laser-focused on impressing the Lakers' front office. He met Magic Johnson. He worked out with the intensity of someone who believed he was about to join his childhood dream team. Everything felt aligned. He even recalled in interviews that when he was in LA for his pre-draft workout, he imagined what it would feel like to wear that iconic jersey. For a moment it felt inevitable. But the Lakers had their eyes on someone else: Lonzo Ball, the electrifying point guard from UCLA who had become a sensation in Southern California. His flashy passing, court vision, and local ties made him the franchise's favored pick. Tatum, despite his remarkable skill set, wasn't the centerpiece of their plan. He wasn't even Plan B. He would later say the Lakers didn't even show real interest. On June 22, 2017, the dream was officially broken. The Lakers selected Lonzo Ball at number 2. Tatum went next, to the Boston Celtics of all teams. The irony was bitter. If the Lakers were his childhood fantasy, the Celtics were their historical nemesis. Being drafted by Boston felt, in that moment, like being handed a jersey from the wrong side of history. In the green room, Tatum smiled politely for the cameras. He hugged Commissioner Adam Silver, posed with the Celtics hat, and delivered a poised interview. But inside he was disoriented, not because he didn't appreciate Boston, but because his mind had been so locked on a different reality. The Lakers had passed on him. Not only that, but they never seriously considered him. That truth stung deeply. After the draft, Tatum didn't say much publicly. He thanked the Celtics, embraced the opportunity. But years later, when he finally opened up about it, he didn't hold back. It was devastating, he admitted. That's where I thought I was going. I wanted to be a Laker. I thought I would be. For fans, this revelation added a new layer of complexity to his already blossoming career. He had become the face of the Celtics, leading them deep into the playoffs multiple times, building his legacy in green and white. But now they saw the parallel universe that lived in his mind. One where he was wearing purple and gold, sharing the floor with LeBron, chasing banners in the same arena where Kobe once ruled. What would have happened if the Lakers had drafted Jayson Tatum? Would their rebuild have accelerated? Would Tatum have become the next heir to Kobe's throne, as many now wonder? Or did fate have other plans, ones that led him to Boston not by accident but by destiny? As Tatum's story unfolds, the emotions surrounding that 2017 draft night continue to echo. Not just for him but for fans of both franchises. And it's only the beginning of a larger tale, one about choices, identity, and what it means when your dream chooses someone else. When Jayson Tatum walked into the Boston Celtics practice facility for the first time, the weight of history hit him like a freight train. The walls were lined with black and white photos of legends: Bill Russell, Larry Bird, John Havlicek, Paul Pierce. 17 championship banners hung like monuments of expectation above the parquet floor. This wasn't just a team. It was a dynasty, one built on excellence and intensity, and no one wore the Celtics jersey without understanding the pressure that came with it. And here was Jayson, a 19-year-old who had dreamed of being a Laker, now stepping into a franchise whose fans considered the Lakers the embodiment of everything they hated. He didn't say much, but inside, Tatum was still adjusting. Wearing the Celtics green felt foreign. Growing up, he had booed this team. Now he was expected to carry its future. Brad Stevens, the head coach at the time, quickly became one of Tatum's strongest advocates. "We believe in him," Stevens said publicly after the draft. "He's got poise beyond his years. He's a Celtic now." Tatum appreciated the confidence, but he couldn't escape the dissonance. He wanted to be grateful, and he was. But this wasn't how he imagined it. There was no purple and gold. No Staples Center lights. No LeBron or Kobe. Just cold Boston air, relentless fans, and expectations that were loud and immediate. Then came training camp. Jaylen Brown, a fellow young talent, had just completed his rookie year. Marcus Smart was already a vocal leader. And Isaiah Thomas, still with the team at that point, was in MVP-like form the year prior. Tatum wasn't handed the keys, he had to earn every minute. But what no one could deny, not even in those early practices, was how smooth his game looked. The footwork was elite. The mid-range was crisp. His basketball IQ was off the charts. It was the same fluidity the Lakers had seen and ignored. Privately, that fueled him. "I remember those first few games," Tatum later said. "I just wanted to prove they made a mistake. Not just Ella, everyone." And he did. The Celtics' 2017-18 season would become one of the most unexpected and emotional in recent memory. Just 5 minutes into opening night, star forward Gordon Hayward suffered a brutal leg injury. Suddenly, Boston's youth movement was no longer a long-term project. It had to work immediately. Tatum, thrust into a starting role, responded with maturity few rookies had ever shown. He averaged over 13 points per game, shot efficiently from beyond the arc, and played with an unshakable calm. Opponents underestimated him, until they couldn't anymore. But still, every time he played under the bright lights, especially in LA, something burned inside. It wasn't resentment. It was something deeper, a longing to show them what they missed. In January 2018, when the Celtics visited the Lakers, Tatum walked into the Staples Center, now Crypto.com Arena, with an extra bounce in his step. He dropped 22 points in a tight loss, but his presence on the court was undeniable. Lakers fans noticed. So did the front office. "Man, maybe we should have taken Tatum," one anonymous exec reportedly said that night. For Tatum, that meant more than a win. He wasn't just proving himself to Boston. He was haunting the team that passed on him. And yet, with every strong performance, his bond with the Celtics grew. He started to understand what it meant to wear that jersey. The Celtics weren't just a team, they were a standard, one that didn't care about your past loyalties. It demanded your present devotion. As the season progressed, Tatum found himself becoming a Celtic in more than name. He studied Paul Pierce's game. He embraced the Boston crowd. He started calling TD Garden home. But deep down, that quiet voice never went away, the one that remembered what it felt like to sit in that draft green room, watching his dream team pick someone else. That disappointment would continue to shape him. Because sometimes greatness isn't forged by dreams fulfilled, but by the ones denied. For many rookies, just surviving the NBA grind is enough. But for Jayson Tatum, thriving became the only acceptable option. And in the 2018 NBA playoffs, with Gordon Hayward sidelined the entire season and Kyrie Irving out due to knee surgery, Tatum's moment came faster than anyone expected. Boston entered the postseason as the number 2 seed in the East, but few believed they'd go far without their stars. It was supposed to be a rebuilding year after those injuries. Instead, it became a proving ground, not just for the Celtics, but for a 20-year-old rookie carrying the weight of a franchise's future on his shoulders. From Game 1, Tatum played with poise that defied his age. Against the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round, he averaged 15.4 points per game. He wasn't just a rookie filling in minutes, he was a closer, a shot maker, a difference maker. In Game 4, with the series tied, he calmly knocked down jumpers in crunch time that made fans forget his age. As the playoffs wore on, his legend began to build. Next came the Philadelphia 76ers, the process team, with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, a young core full of hype. Tatum didn't flinch. In Game 1 he dropped 28 points. Over the series he averaged nearly 24 per game. He moved like a seasoned vet, exploiting mismatches, finishing in traffic, burying jumpers from all angles. The Celtics won the series in 5 games. Suddenly, Boston was in the Eastern Conference Finals, and their opponent was LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was the full-circle moment Tatum didn't know he needed. He had grown up idolizing LeBron just as he had idolized Kobe. And now here he was, guarding the king in the conference finals, as a rookie. But beneath the admiration there was something else: hunger. Tatum wasn't there to shake hands and learn. He was there to compete. And in Game 7 he made his presence undeniable. With the game hanging in the balance, Tatum caught the ball at the top of the key, drove past George Hill and exploded toward the rim. LeBron rotated. Tatum rose, and threw down a vicious dunk over the 4-time MVP. Then, without hesitation, he bumped LeBron in the chest on the way back. It was a flash of fire, not arrogance but belief. "That's the moment I realized he was different," Jaylen Brown said later. "Most rookies would be scared to go at LeBron. Jayson went through him." The Celtics would ultimately lose that game and the series. LeBron was too much, even for Boston's resilience. But no one walked away talking about the loss. They talked about Tatum. He had averaged 18.5 points per game in the playoffs, the most by a Celtics rookie in history, surpassing Larry Bird. And suddenly, everyone began asking the same question: how did the Lakers pass on this guy? Across the league, the narrative started to shift. Tatum wasn't just a promising young player, he was a future superstar. A cornerstone. A player you build championships around. And for Lakers fans, especially those who had watched Lonzo Ball struggle with injuries and inconsistency, the regret was starting to sink in. In interviews, Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka would avoid directly addressing it. But the fans? They knew. The draft that was supposed to usher in the post-Kobe era had passed on the one player who might have truly carried the torch. Tatum, meanwhile, kept his focus on Boston. But internally, every achievement was a quiet response to the team that let him go. "People don't understand what that did for my mindset," Tatum said years later. "It put a chip on my shoulder I'll never lose." The summer after the playoffs, he went straight back to work. The highlight tapes circulated. The endorsements rolled in. The comparisons to Kobe became louder, ironically, as he wore the jersey of Kobe's greatest rival. And yet, no matter how strong the connection to Boston grew, part of Tatum's identity had already been shaped by rejection. Because nothing motivates a dreamer more than the dream that almost came true. By his second season, Jayson Tatum was no longer just a promising rookie, he was a rising star. But behind every step forward in his career, there remained a deep connection to the past. Not just any past, the legacy of Kobe Bryant. Tatum's admiration for Kobe was never casual. He didn't just watch Kobe's highlights on YouTube, he studied them like scripture. In high school he wore number 24. At Duke, he imitated Kobe's footwork and mid-post game. For Tatum, Kobe wasn't just a favorite player, he was a personal blueprint for greatness. So when Tatum got the chance to train with Kobe in the summer of 2018, it felt like stepping into a dream. The man who had shaped his basketball philosophy was now standing across from him in a private gym, ready to mentor him. But this wasn't just fan worship. It was a master class. That summer the two worked out together in Los Angeles. They drilled fadeaways, pivot footwork, off-balance shots, advanced counters. Kobe didn't go easy on him. He corrected every detail. Every mistake was met with laser focus. Tatum, ever the student, soaked up every word. "Kobe challenged me to be great," Tatum later said. "He told me, don't try to be like anyone else. Be the best version of yourself, but do it with killer intent." For Tatum, it was more than basketball advice. It was a spiritual torch passing. But there was a subtle, haunting irony in it all. Here he was training with a Lakers legend, a player whose entire career had been devoted to beating the Celtics, while wearing Boston green. Kobe had once torched the Celtics in the 2010 NBA Finals. Now he was training their next star. Still, Kobe never treated Tatum like a rival. He saw the same hunger in the young forward that he once had in himself. In interviews after their sessions, Kobe praised Tatum's composure, his work ethic, his potential to be one of the greats. Tatum in return called Kobe his idol, mentor, and hero. After those sessions, Tatum returned to Boston with a different aura. His mid-range game sharpened. His pace slowed down, but his control intensified. It was clear he was evolving, not just as a player but as a competitor. The Kobe mentality wasn't a slogan to him. It was real. The emotional bond only grew stronger. In January 2020, the world was shaken by the news of Kobe Bryant's tragic death in a helicopter crash. For Tatum, it wasn't just the loss of a hero, it was the loss of someone who had believed in him. That night, Tatum was inconsolable. He posted a series of photos with Kobe, captioned with heartbreak and disbelief. He wore a number 24 armband in tribute. In the games that followed, he played like a man possessed, scoring 41 points against the Lakers just weeks later at Staples Center. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a tribute. "Every time I step on the court, I think about him," Tatum said. "I want to honor what he taught me. I want to carry that legacy." But still, that lingering twist of fate remained. If the Lakers had chosen differently in 2017, Tatum might have worn number 24 for the same franchise Kobe built. The parallels would have been poetic. Instead, he had become the new face of the Celtics, Kobe's old enemy, while carrying his philosophy forward. This duality gave Tatum a unique edge. He played with the ruthless efficiency of a Laker legend, but within the system and tradition of the Celtics. He was both fire and focus, old school and new school. And every time he stepped onto the court, it was as though Kobe was there with him, whispering reminders of what it meant to demand excellence from yourself and everyone around you. Tatum didn't need to wear the Lakers jersey to carry Kobe's flame. In fact, doing it in Boston, the heart of enemy territory, made it even more powerful. Because legacy isn't about the jersey you wear. It's about how you wear it. And Jayson Tatum was learning that his dream of playing for the Lakers didn't have to come true in order for Kobe's influence to live through him. In some ways, the rejection only made the connection deeper. Because when your hero sees something in you, even if his team didn't, you carry that forward with something greater than pride. You carry it with purpose. By the time Jayson Tatum entered his 4th season in the NBA, he was no longer just a young star. He was a franchise player, an all-star, and arguably a top 10 talent in the league. The Celtics were his team now. But as his fame and impact grew, so did the conversations around him, and many of those conversations involved a single haunting question. What if the Lakers had drafted Jayson Tatum? It was a fair question. Tatum had evolved into everything the Lakers had hoped Lonzo Ball would become. An elite scorer, a reliable closer, a leader. Ball had shown flashes of brilliance but was eventually traded to New Orleans in the Anthony Davis deal. Meanwhile, Tatum remained in Boston, steadily climbing the ladder of superstardom. The Lakers won a championship in 2020 with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but there was still that lingering curiosity among fans, pundits, and even players. What would the team look like if they had built around Tatum instead? It wasn't just hypothetical banter. Internally, those thoughts surfaced in quiet conversations around the league. A former Lakers scout, anonymously quoted in a podcast, admitted, "We loved Tatum's game. We just thought Lonzo was the better fit with our system at the time. But yeah, sometimes I think we got blinded." Tatum, for his part, stayed diplomatic. In interviews, he never expressed bitterness. He spoke highly of the Celtics, of Brad Stevens, of the city of Boston. But when the subject of the draft came up, his tone often shifted slightly, a flash of something deeper behind his words. "I thought I was going to the Lakers. I won't lie," he told ESPN in 2021. "That was the team I grew up watching. I wanted to be there." He didn't elaborate, but he didn't need to. The silence between sentences said it all. Privately, the what-if hovered like a ghost over his early career. Not because he resented Boston, he didn't. He was proud to wear the Celtics jersey. But because the Lakers weren't just another team. They were the team. The dream. The legacy he wanted to be part of. It was hard not to imagine it. Imagine Tatum in purple and gold, running the floor beside LeBron. Imagine the seamless scoring, the late-game dominance, the killer mentality Kobe had passed to him, now on full display in the same uniform. Staples Center would have exploded. A new dynasty might have formed. But it didn't happen. And perhaps that was exactly why Tatum became who he was. Because every great player carries some form of rejection. A slight, a miss, a reason to work harder. For Tatum, the Lakers' decision gave him one. It put a chip on his shoulder that only sharpened with every accolade. Every all-star selection. Every 30-point game. Every playoff duel. His father once said in an interview, "Jayson doesn't forget things. He remembers every slight even if he doesn't talk about it." That was part of his makeup. He wasn't loud. He wasn't flashy. But he was methodical, a quiet assassin who let his game do the talking. And yet, sometimes the what-if came from others, in ways that hit a little too close. During a road game against the Lakers in 2022, a fan sitting courtside shouted, "You're supposed to be here, bro. You should have been a Laker." Tatum smiled, nodded slightly. He didn't react outwardly, but his play that night spoke volumes. He dropped 37 points, including a clutch fourth-quarter takeover. He didn't just play to win. He played to remind. That's how he dealt with the weight of what-ifs. He turned them into fuel. As the years passed, Tatum began to embody a paradox. The Celtics star shaped by the Lakers' rejection. He was embraced fully by Boston, beloved by its fans. But part of his motivation, the fire that made him so relentless, came from that night in 2017 when his name wasn't called second. There are moments that change careers. There are moments that change destinies. For Jayson Tatum, being passed over by his dream team became both, and it turned him into the kind of player who didn't just chase greatness, he demanded it. For decades, the Celtics versus Lakers rivalry had defined generations of basketball fans. Bird versus Magic. Russell versus Wilt. Pierce versus Kobe. Each era had its chapter. But as the 2020s arrived, there was a growing sense that a new edition was about to begin, and Jayson Tatum was right at the center of it. The Lakers, fresh off their 2020 bubble championship, had LeBron James and Anthony Davis anchoring their squad. Boston, meanwhile, had Tatum and Jaylen Brown, two homegrown stars evolving into elite talents. The league had changed, less physical, more perimeter-focused, but the fire between the two franchises still burned hot. And for Tatum, the games against the Lakers meant more than most. He never admitted it outright, but his body language told the story. When Boston traveled to Los Angeles, he walked into the Crypto.com arena with laser focus. When the Lakers came to TD Garden, Tatum always seemed to raise his game. These matchups weren't just about standings or stats. They were personal reminders of the path not taken. In 2021, Tatum dropped 41 points in LA in a thriller that went down to the wire. The Celtics lost in overtime, but Tatum's performance turned heads once again. Commentators couldn't help but say it. Imagine if he were wearing the other jersey. Even LeBron James, post-game, pulled Tatum aside and said, "You're cold, young fella. Keep going." Tatum smiled, nodded, and walked off. He wasn't one for long exchanges. He was already thinking about the next game. What made this renewed rivalry so compelling was the emotional contrast. LeBron was nearing the twilight of his career, still dominant but pacing himself. Tatum, on the other hand, was ascending rapidly. With each season, his game became more complete, stronger on defense, more consistent from three, better at reading double teams. He wasn't just a scorer anymore, he was becoming a leader. And as Tatum's stature grew, the Celtics-Lakers games felt different. Not forced. Not nostalgic. Real. There were hard fouls again. There were stare-downs. There was tension. In 2023, Boston won both regular season matchups against LA. Tatum averaged 33 points, including a game winner in overtime at the Garden. After the final buzzer, he thumped his chest and pointed to the hardwood floor, the same way Paul Pierce once did. Celtics fans erupted. The moment was iconic. But later, when asked about the celebration, Tatum offered a quieter take. "You always want to show up against the best. That's what these games are about. History. Respect. Competition." That was his media answer. Privately, he knew exactly what he was doing. Because with every great performance against the Lakers, Tatum was adding a page to his own story, one where the team that passed on him became the team he punished. The rivalry, once about cities and stars, now had a new undercurrent. The Celtics had taken in a kid who had dreamed of being a Laker and turned him into a weapon against them. And for LA, every Celtics win, every Tatum explosion, every clutch shot, became another reminder that destiny had almost looked different. It wasn't just Boston versus LA anymore. It was Tatum versus the road not taken. And with every passing year, it felt like that road led right back to the rivalry he was now helping define, but from the other side. It began as a routine media day, microphones, flashing cameras, a row of players answering questions and reporters fishing for headlines. Jayson Tatum, now a 5-time All-Star, sat poised, calm, and typically reserved. He was used to the attention by now. Most interviews followed a pattern. Praise for teammates, focus on the season, a few jokes, and some quotes about improving every year. But this time it changed. The question came from a veteran journalist. Straightforward. Direct. Jayson, looking back on draft night in 2017, do you still think about the Lakers passing on you? Tatum hesitated for a moment, just a flicker of a pause, not enough to catch unless you were looking closely. Then he nodded slowly and gave a half smile. Not one of joy, one of acknowledgement. Yeah, he said. I do. A lot more than people think. That sentence alone would have been enough for the headlines. But Tatum wasn't finished. I thought I was going there. That's where I wanted to be. My favorite player played there. I had it pictured in my head since I was a kid. The room got quiet. Reporters stopped typing and started listening. So yeah, it bothered me. It lit a fire. Every time I play them, I remember that night. Not out of hate, just motivation. You know what I mean. It wasn't just what he said. It was how he said it, raw, honest, unfiltered. The NBA is a business, and players rarely show that kind of vulnerability about missed expectations, especially when they've become as successful as Tatum. But here he was, admitting that a part of him still carried that moment like a scar. He continued, I'm thankful for Boston, man. This is home now. But that draft, it changed me. I wanted to be a Laker. I can't lie about that. And maybe if they had picked me, things would have turned out different. I think about that all the time. Within minutes, the clip went viral. Social media exploded. Tatum admits he wanted to be a Laker. Celtics star opens up about draft snub. What if the Lakers had taken Tatum? NBA analysts and former players chimed in. Kendrick Perkins said, he said what every player thinks but never says. Shannon Sharpe debated the clip on national TV. The Lakers missed out on a generational talent, he argued. Tatum is him and they let him go for hype. But it wasn't just noise. The interview sparked real discussion about how one decision can change a franchise, or a legacy. In LA, fans took to Reddit, Twitter, even sports radio to vent their frustration. Some blamed Magic Johnson for pushing too hard for Lonzo Ball. Others wondered if LeBron would have come earlier had Tatum already been on the roster. Meanwhile, Celtics fans were divided. Some appreciated Tatum's honesty. Others felt uneasy about their superstar admitting he once dreamed of playing for the enemy. But Tatum, as always, let the moment pass quietly. He didn't follow up the interview with more quotes. He didn't issue a clarification. He just went back to work, the gym, the film room, the court. That's who he was. Honest but focused. Still, the timing of the interview felt intentional. Just days later, the Celtics were scheduled to face the Lakers on national television. It wasn't just any game, it was the first time in over a decade that both teams entered the matchup as legitimate title contenders. The league couldn't have scripted it better. Tatum's words had added fuel to a fire already burning hot. Fans from both coasts circled the date. Headlines framed it as a showdown. Even former players got involved, tweeting predictions and jabs. And when the game finally tipped off, the atmosphere was electric. Every time Tatum touched the ball, Lakers fans booed. Every time he scored, Celtics fans roared. He finished with 39 points, including a step-back jumper over Anthony Davis in the final minute to seal the win. After the buzzer, Tatum didn't say a word. He just looked up toward the rafters where the Celtics championship banners hung. The ones Kobe once tried to destroy, the ones Tatum now tried to add to. He didn't need to say anything more. The interview had already said it all. As Jayson Tatum's career progressed into the mid-2020s, the narrative around him evolved, from the young rookie passed over by the Lakers to a bona fide NBA superstar and franchise cornerstone. The what-if of draft night 2017 still lingered in conversations, but it became less about regret and more about legacy. Tatum had long since made peace with the team that didn't pick him. Instead, he focused on the legacy he was building, in Boston and beyond. He embraced the weight of history that came with wearing the Celtics green, the championships, the legends, the intense fan base. Yet he also carried a unique story, a reminder that greatness often comes through adversity, not despite it. His play on the court became a testament to resilience. Time and again he showed the mental toughness to elevate his game in critical moments. Playoff buzzer beaters, Game 7 heroics, clutch free throws under pressure. The fire ignited by that missed draft pick had transformed into a steady flame of excellence. Tatum's leadership also blossomed. Younger players looked up to him. Coaches trusted him. Boston's front office built a team around him. And despite the early doubts and comparisons, he carved out his own style. A mix of silky smooth scoring, lockdown defense, and a calm, measured approach to the game. Off the court, Tatum became a symbol of perseverance. He used his platform to speak about overcoming setbacks, embracing hard work, and staying true to one's dreams, no matter the obstacles. He mentored aspiring athletes and gave back to his community in St. Louis and Boston. And in the larger NBA landscape, he became a bridge between eras. A player who carried Kobe Bryant's killer instinct, the Celtics' rich tradition, and a modern, versatile game that could adapt to any style of play. While some still debated the Lakers' decision to pass on him, Tatum himself no longer focused on the past. He often said, "It's not about where you start. It's about where you go from there." His story inspired countless players who were overlooked, underestimated, or told no. He showed that sometimes the biggest setbacks are the greatest setups. By 2025, Jayson Tatum was not just a Celtics legend in the making, he was an NBA icon in his own right. The dream of being a Laker had been a chapter in his journey, but it wasn't the whole book. Because legacy is built by what you do with the opportunities you get, not the ones you miss. And in that sense, Tatum's legacy was already sealed, as a relentless competitor, a humble leader, and a player who transformed rejection into triumph. The Lakers may have missed their chance, but the NBA had gained something far greater.